Sometimes the things you need to hear are exactly the things you don't want to hear. This is true for a lot of things in life, especially writing. The journey towards wordsmithing the kind of story you've always dreamed of is an experience fraught with many difficult lessons and soul-crushing realities. If you want to grow as a writer, you can't stick your head into the proverbial sound-deadening sand. So today, let me present you some things that all writers must accept even if you don't want to. All right, thing number one that you don't want to hear but probably need to hear: the more people who like your writing, the more people who will hate it. Anything that's attractive is going to be polarizing in some way. Trying to make something that everyone will enjoy is the surest way to make sure that no one enjoys it. The decisions that you make that lead one group of people to fall in love with your writing will cause another group of people to intensely dislike it, and not in a "this is offensive" or mean-spirited sort of way. A lot of people produce divisive work as a kind of shortcut to gaining an audience, but that's really not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is really just a matter of personal preference. To make something that people really like means that you're creating something that a bunch of people won't like because they have different preferences. If you want to make the best pizza in the world, you're going to be creating something that will revile all the people who intensely dislike pizza. And changing your pizza to appeal to people who don't like pizza is just going to drive away the people who do like pizza. If you focus your novel on world building at the expense of plot and characters, you'll probably find a group of people who really like it. But you'll also upset all the people who don't like world building. Every action that you take that moves your novel towards being someone's favorite novel will move it away from somebody else. Every time you gain a fan, you will also gain a detractor. Trying to make everyone happy will water down whatever it is that makes your work great. This will allow some group of people to really enjoy it, but simultaneously result in an ever-growing number of people who don't like it. Now, you might say, who cares? As long as I have a group of people who like my work, that's fine. Who cares if there's a bunch of people who don't like it? And that's true, but don't underestimate the difficulty of dealing with a large group of people who don't like the work that you're producing. I've encountered this with these videos where when I have a video that does really well and people really like it, the number of people who are critical of that video, the number of people who don't like it, also increases. And not just like in an absolute way. A greater percentage of people, on like a percentage basis, don't like the videos that I produce that people like the most, if that makes any sense. Thing number two that you don't want to hear but probably should: writing engaging fiction is probably mostly mechanical. It feels kind of good to ascribe the talent that great writers have to some kind of mystical force. We don't understand why they're great. They just possess some ephemeral gift that us mere mortals don't have access to. They pluck ideas and sentences from some cosmic well of creative brilliance, a place that's not detectable, let alone measurable, even using the most finely tuned instrument. The idea that fiction writing can be described by some kind of mechanical means, or that the principles underlying good storytelling are not immune to the laws of cause and effect, is upsetting to some people. It strips away the artistic nature of the pursuit and makes it feel gray and devoid of meaning. The day will probably come where enough neuroscience and fMRI studies and AI-driven analysis and massive computational horsepower are able to dissect what goes into writing a great novel and do so down to a very minute level. They will eventually, potentially, be able to generate a sort of formula for good fiction. The only reason someone hasn't figured out that formula is because it involves so many levels of emotional experience, cultural context, and sensory understanding that the sheer number of variables is so incredibly high that it's probably difficult to compute. But difficult does not mean impossible, and we may see a day where all of the unexplainable things about great stories are explained. Thing number 3 that you don't want to hear, but blah blah blah, you need to be working on the thing that scares you. People naturally avoid uncertainty and painful situations, but if you want to improve as a writer, those are the 2 things that you need to confront. It's all too easy to lull yourself into denial and spend time working on aspects of the craft that you enjoy while avoiding those that you don't but really should be working on. I'm definitely guilty of this. I'm sure a lot of you probably are too. This might be at the level of a specific novel. There might be a problem in your story that you don't know how to fix, so you avoid trying to fix it, or you tell yourself that the problem is actually other problems, so you focus on them instead. It can also be at the level of the entire craft. You might be really comfortable with writing dialogue and have your work filled with characters who never shut up, while ignoring the fact that you really aren't that good at writing description. If you aren't regularly engaging in uncomfortable parts of the craft, if you aren't pushing yourself to improve, if the process doesn't feel a little bit painful and uncertain, then that can be a sign that you aren't improving. And that's fine, but it means that you're going to stay at that level until you move into an area that makes you uncomfortable. It ultimately, I guess, depends on your goals, but if your goal is to improve, that means pushing yourself. That means uncertainty. That means a degree of pain and a lot of time spent being uncomfortable. And the last uncomfortable truth that you don't want to hear yet are inexplicably listening to me explain it to you: you don't have time to write everything. Anytime you decide to write a novel, there are literally millions of other novels that you will never write. Your writing time is finite, and when you say yes to writing something, you're also saying no to a whole bunch of other stuff. This is the opportunity cost, the unseen downside to your decisions, what you miss out on when you opt for something. This is probably a different experience for different people. I personally have way more ideas for novels that I want to write than I will probably have time in my lifetime to actually write. Some people don't have as many ideas, but for the people who do have a lot of ideas, this is something that can be a little bit uncomfortable to confront. Now, the flip side of this argument is that ideas don't matter all that much, that it's good execution that makes any novel work, and that any novel is going to have problems in it, so it really doesn't make much of a difference which one you decide to work on. The process at the end of the day is probably going to be mostly similar, and you're not necessarily making better or worse decisions, you're just trading off one problem for another problem. Then you have to accept the fact that it's unlikely that you'll have enough time in your life to write every single one of them, especially if you want to give them the proper time to bring the idea to full fruition. You can write a lot of novels, but if you want to write good novels, you're probably going to have to reduce the total number that you write. Ultimately, this comes down to the fact that you have a finite number of days with which to write, and that finite number of days means that there are some stories that will just never be written. I think the takeaway from this is that you should make sure that whatever you decide to work on is what you really want to be working on. I don't think there's time for filler stories or stories that your heart isn't 100% into. I think you need to treat every single day, every single opportunity that you have to write as a special thing that you have a limited amount of. Speaking of things you have a limited amount of, time is probably among them, so I'm not going to take up any more of it by bringing this video to an end. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video and found the advice in it useful. If you want to see more stuff like this, you can check out all my other writing advice related videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.